Welcome to The Prize Inside. The Prize Inside. A chiropractor's journey in everyday holistic health and vitality. Here, your host, Dr. Jeremy Myers, delves into the remarkable journeys of everyday people who have embraced the path to health and healing. Through his practice, Dr. Jeremy encounters inspiring stories of profound transformation and the power of true healing within each of us. Stay tuned as we discuss various holistic topics and unlock the healing potential that lies within us all.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Whole Health Weekly. Tonight, we're going to do what we normally do. This is episode 23. We're going to go through some health and healing topics of the week. So just wanted you to be aware. It should be a good night. I'm hoping we get some people. Hopefully, you guys liked the low back one. If you're not a part of it, let me get into that. I want to invite you all to my Rumble channel because a lot of my recordings will be there. And so if you're ever interested in like one, we just did one on low back pain this Sunday. And it was really, I thought it was good. Hopefully, I need to do some more, some more of that. It was such a low back is a very big topic. And a lot of times that can be one of those. But if you like watching the recordings or Apple Podcasts, okay, there we go. We're gonna do if you like listening, a lot of times we have. I just got to get it really quick. We also have the podcast version, so this is always as an audio recording as well. So this is on all the different podcasts that are out there. So as you're looking, this is the podcast version. So that's in the chats if you're there. So the Rumble channel and the podcast version. So with that, tonight I got my my office manager Gina. She got me our TikTok information, so we'll go over that. But I always like to go through one of the 33 chiropractic principles first. So we're going to start with that because we're on episode 23. We are on principle number 23. It's pretty easy to keep track of that. And so we'll go through that, and then we will start. Okay. So principle. So remember the 33 chiropractic principles. These were written over 100 years ago. The principles are as true then as they are today. The innate intelligence. So there's an intelligence within us. And this intelligence is the thing that takes our matter and makes it work. It makes this machinery, this great machine, like the most impressive machine. I was telling a patient this week, we have the best machine available on the planet sitting with us right now. We just have to make sure that all those parts are working and they're communicating with each other, because in our bodies, we have this stuff. And I'm bringing this up so you guys understand where this next principle comes. The innate intelligence within us is every cell has an inborn intelligence, and that intelligence leads to us being able to interact with our environment and our environment's nature. If you want to think of the law of gravity. If we didn't have intelligent cells, we wouldn't have muscles and bones to keep our body upright in gravity. Think about that kind of situation. So that's what innate intelligence is. Very profound. If we are able to keep that communication going, then life is a lot better. So here is chiropractic principle number 23. So number 23. And remember, this is back, 1890s, 1870s speak. So just remember that when we're reading them. So this is principle 23, the function of innate intelligence. The function of innate intelligence is to adapt universal forces, which is nature. So we're adapting nature and the forces that are put on us, and matter for use in the body. So I'll say that again. The function of innate intelligence is to adapt universal forces and matter for use in the body. so that all parts of the body will have coordinated action for mutual benefit. So our innate intelligence is for what? It's to take these forces that are put upon us. Gravity is a good example. Another one that's fantastic, I didn't even think about, but think about this. The cells of your body need sunlight. So you have a natural force, sunlight, that comes through. And I've been studying a lot of this. So this will be one of our talks at some point. So sunlight actually activates certain processes in our body. Now, the one we know specifically is vitamin D. I think there's many, many more of those. I think there's mitochondrial situations, there's energy flow. There's a lot more that sun actually activates because it's a lot of energy, like natural universal energy, or from the universal intelligence coming into us to run this body, right? And so that's why I always think that innate intelligence stuff is so cool. And it's such a good starting point to going into, weekly, like seeing what the topics are this week. Because really, Whole Health Weekly is all about looking at these things, seeing it from a holistic perspective, and seeing if it's a good thing or bad. And so the thing that Gina brought up is the TikTok topic. The TikTok topic this week was the difference between prebiotics and probiotics. So if you understand a little bit, so probiotics are essentially what you hear about all the time. And they are little bacterias. Okay. So we have this gut microbiome that we want to keep going. We have these little creatures, trillions of them, in fact, in our gut. Okay. So the gut microbiome, one of the biggest things is we want to make sure that we have this great, environment. It's kind of like, think of soil. So we don't want like soil that's, beat up. A good example is you want to plant your garden in a vegetable garden with lots of topsoil versus your dirt driveway, right? That's a big difference in, the different situations. But a lot of us live with the dirt driveway as a gut microbiome and not necessarily the soil part. The reason the topsoil is so good is because you have earthworms and you have all these other little bugs, and those little bugs move around things. They poop in it. They make it vital and like really rich in nutrients. And so that's what we want to do with our gut microbiome. And that's what probiotics are trying to do. Now, as everything gets bigger, I would warn, as we go, just do a lot of research and don't spend a crap ton until you know that it's a good probiotic. Because a lot of times we get suckered in, there's a lot of different things that hit you in the face with like, oh, this is the best probiotic. And I know it's going to happen soon. We're going to have this probiotic cures this, right? Just $89 for every week, that kind of situation. So be wary of that and research it prior to that. There are different ones. There's like several different, the one that's, I don't know the names offhand, but lactobacillus is one. There's several different gut bacteria that are starting to be talked about, as we go. And there's different varieties of these bacteria. That's what a probiotic is. But here is the kicker. Okay. What a prebiotic is. Okay. So a prebiotic is super important. And this is part that goes kind of unnoticed, and why sometimes we have situations where you have where those probiotics don't take, and prebiotics are a real big reason for that. The reason is because if they're a bacteria and they're a live animal, basically, they need food. Okay. And their food is fiber. Fiber is what they use. Okay. So if you do not have fiber in your diet, which is through ultra processed foods have zero fiber. Also, if you went let's say all carnivore and like no vegetables or, those kind of things, you don't have a lot of fiber to do. So then your gut microbiome will struggle. And so that's why it's super important to understand that. Let's say you are on a carnivore diet and you like to, do that kind of situation, or it's good for you at that point. Finding a fiber supplement or some kind of greens is really important, because because prebiotics are the thing that is going to keep your gut microbiome kind of in check and alive. And that's one of our problems with keeping a good gut microbiome. It's more than just taking the probiotic. That's why we go through a process. Even at the office, we'll do some gut health stuff. And when we do, we have to add things pretty regularly to what's happening. And it has to be, stuff that'll enhance that gut microbiome. Okay. So a prebiotic, there's lots of different ways to do this, but the best way is vegetables, right? Eating real vegetables, like any of that kind of stuff. Now, if you have a gut problem, sometimes eating soft veggies, like where you're, boiling or steaming it, might be the best move just to get it in your system and it's not as aggressive, right? So let's say you suffer with IBS or you got some kind of gut issue. Sometimes doing it that way and getting it down to finer parts can help you, digest it a lot better. So hopefully that kind of clears up. You need a prebiotic and a probiotic. I guess there is going to probably be a postbiotic as well. So that'll be another fiber situation. But those are things to kind of watch for in your supplementation. Some have the probiotic within it. I usually suggest you have a probiotic with some kind of prebiotic built in, so those probiotics are alive. Okay, so that's the key. Getting a really good probiotic is important. We just have to make sure that we're not getting, the next step will be, we take this probiotic for, my left eye twitching, and then they'll charge you a bunch of money instead of understanding what you got. Okay. So there is the probiotic prebiotic off of TikTok. That'll help you a little bit. My favorite prebiotic, by the way, is like a greens powder. We sell it at the office and you can get it anywhere, but any kind of the green type where it's like just basically green vegetables, like basically powdered up. It's fantastic. It's good for energy, has a ton of supplementation in there or vitamins and all kinds of good stuff. So remember that as a good prebiotic before you get rolling. Okay. So let's start with now we'll start with the trends of the week on top of TikTok. Okay. So I try to get on the social media and kind of scour the internet for different things and then put it in a summary. Okay. So as we go, this is what we are kind of doing here. All right. So medical health trends. And the big one, this has been the topic because it's our RFK. We have a feeling we know where healthcare they want to go. So we're going to talk about it. AI integration into healthcare. Artificial intelligence continues to transform medical diagnostic treatment. Recent discussions highlight AI's role in medical imaging, with companies like NVIDIA emphasizing its potential to enhance diagnostic accuracy and reduce costs in doctors' offices. This trend is expected to grow with AI-driven tools becoming more prevalent in 2025. Okay. So let's talk a little AI, because I think that would be a good one. What's going to happen is, think about this. So AI has a couple situations going. One is people are petrified of it for various reasons. They think a lot of jobs are going to be gone and a lot of those kind of things. AI also could be one of our greatest assets. The problem is we have to trust ourselves. We have to consciously look at these things, and especially in AI and healthcare. Right now, maybe image studies. So what they're talking about is like saying, all right, an AI algorithm thing could read an MRI, and that MRI would give you a really good, diagnostic tool there. Reading an x-ray. I already know that the AI can do that. They can read an x-ray, see and make sure everything looks good. One of the problems we're going to have is just like the first time Google search came up. Okay. So when Google search came up, we all like, oh, this is great. We can search whatever we want. And then something started happening. And we have to be if this is going to be a part of our lives, we just have to understand it, so whether you want it to be or not, it's probably going to be in some kind of AI form in your life. Now, as conscious, innate, intelligent, very intelligent human beings with a consciousness, we can start understanding that when they start integrating these things, go back in history. So we have Google search engine. Google search engine started as this beautiful organic search engine. You could search something and it'd pop up the coolest thing and all this thing. Now, Google search engine is pretty much propaganda. So what I mean by that is you look up back pain. Is it going to give you the best solution? No, it's going to give you the best paid solution that somebody's done at the very top of that. So it's not really a true, what they call organic search. So whoever controls the AI is going to have the ability to pay someone to tell the AI what to do. Okay. So we still have to be as diligent as we are in discerning. The ones that are watching tonight or listening later will be the ones that are able to discern, hey, that's not right. That's like this situation. I don't know. Maybe I'll get a second opinion, right? So I think it's going to be a important tool that we can utilize in a lot of different ways. We just have to understand that there's going to be this limitation of, what would say, impropriety or kind of what happened with Google, right? So you're a free search engine, and now you're one of the biggest companies in the world, right? And the way you did that was you made people start paying for their influence on these different search pages. Okay, so this is just one opinion on like what's going to happen with that. But is efficiency going to get better? Possibly. As you go, definitely make your searches better, and maybe the information you want to hear will be better, right? I would really worry about the one thing that I'm not a fan of is AI kind of, searching all of our databases for like all this different information, because then they can start scaring you with a lot of this medical information. So it's just one of those things. I think the word is out on it. We're not going to be able to not live with it. We're going to have to live with it. Okay. So there's no answer. There's no chance that that's not going to happen. We're going to have to live with it. How we do that is up to our spiritual, our mind, our consciousness, our discernment, our brain power. We have to get smarter, right? And because no one would have said back when the internet came on that you're like, oh, we don't want that stupid internet. Did we ever say that? Did we ever say, oh man, and when the internet comes, there's going to be all kinds of lost jobs? And the internet, yeah, everybody said that. Same thing. What happened? More jobs, more expansion. We just have to understand, use it as a tool. It's not the end all be all. Do not make it a god. Okay. That's the key to AI. And that goes for all the different data that's going to happen. This healthcare AI stuff, it's going to be interesting because nothing we've done technologically, folks, has led to better health. In fact, we're sicker than we ever have been. How is that even possible with me being able to talk to Canada tonight, all the internet, the vast amount of information that we have, and we're sicker now than we were back then? That should change you a little bit and understand the influence of information. So the more power is behind you with you discerning the information that comes. Okay. There is a soapbox again. Jeez, sorry about that. All right. So the next trend was the rising costs of healthcare costs and insurance market growth. So the U.S. and medical insurance market is projected to grow from $1.5 trillion in 2025 to $2 trillion by 2030, driven by the aging population and increasing healthcare costs. Innovations in digital health solutions and government subsidized insurance schemes are boosting this expansion. though rising costs and regulatory complexities pose challenges. Okay, so this has been a problem for a long time. We are getting to the point where, and a lot of times this is going to be driven. So this is one reason why you really need to kind of own and understand a little bit of the AI, because it's going to be used against you as a patient. I guarantee it. So like a lot of people are going to cut costs, and how they're going to do that is they're going to just, use an AI to deny care here, deny care there. Those are things that happen. They're challenges that the entire insurance industry is going to, I always hope in my hope is in dreams that healthcare insurance type stuff would come along with the idea that we're smarter than they actually believe we are. And that, like we could actually get some of this stuff done, and maybe if the right tools were available, with covering these things that actually take care of you, good food, physical activities, a lot of these different things could be benefited. But the problem is the entire industry is set up as a sick care model. The sick care model is grab as much money as you can and then hope they don't get sick very soon, and then gain enough cash to make sure that when the sickness does come, we will make enough money, over that time of the sickness. Okay. Sick care model is not going to work. It's not going to make us healthier as a community. What's going to help is knowledge and power of the patient, right? And understanding that, and understanding what true health is versus, what shot you got here and what drug you get here. That's going to be the key. That's going to be the key, is like my patient's understanding should be like number one taught in how to do personal self-care every day. All these different things that we're talking about tonight could be the solution, but I don't know if the world's ready just for that. We're still, put that our healthcare on the last, our health in general on the last burner of the stove, right? So think about that. I've always had one of my doctors, his name was Dr. Mitch Malley. He was one of my teachers for years. And I used to love this statement, but imagine you buy a $200,000 Lamborghini. It's like a decked out Lamborghini. And you just decide, let's just not do the oil changes. I'm not going to do any maintenance on this thing. I'm just going to buy the $200K and just ride it until it starts smoking and stuff. You wouldn't do that. No one in their right mind would buy a $200K Lamborghini and then not do the oil change, right? That's what we do with the best machine in the world, our human body, on a daily basis. Every single day, we neglect the Lamborghini that God gave us. And so we need to start changing that role, because otherwise healthcare costs will go up, right? That's just the thing. And if insurance would cooperate with their patients, a lot of times you would have happier patients and better outcomes. So that's an interesting topic. So that was pretty good. All right. Let's go to, this one. I'm going to bring this up because it's interesting. We'll see what happens. New tariffs, particularly on the Chinese imports, are affecting the medical device and pharmaceutical sectors. GE Healthcare anticipates a $500 million annual hit due to these tariffs, prompting a shift towards local manufacturing to mitigate costs. This could influence the availability and pricings of medical equipment in 2025. My personal opinion, this stuff should have never been overseas anyway. It's slightly outrageous that we've had this stuff for 50 years, and the drugs that keep our families safe and healthy are getting done by foreign countries, especially ones that are, communists that may not like America that much. I don't know. I would say probably one of our bigger health security concerns in the world could be that, having 85%. Did you know 85% of our drugs are manufactured in a different country? And that different country happens to be one that doesn't love us very much, right? Not particularly, but we keep doing business with them because they they have 8-year-olds that get to do that, and they can do that slave labor stuff, which we shouldn't be okay with anyway. But the idea that is crazy is, what if we went to war with them? That's a possibility of 20, 30 years, who knows when, right? But if you're doing 85% of your drugs in a different country, every pill that you take, you know what it looks like? Exactly. It could be a mind-boggling, terrible idea. What if the medical devices, what about those? All of a sudden, this medical device that you need to survive, or your loved one needs to survive, stops working. Bringing them back to your country, wherever that. But top of that, hello. Yeah, I will say it. This is my soapbox time of time. So now we're at international audience. Yes, that's right. And so maybe not. Maybe someday. Maybe we don't be international anymore. But top of that, that'd be cool. I would like it. It would be cool. But anyway, but that is something else we should all be concerned about and kind of ready for. I think we're ready to make sure that those things get on there. Okay. So enough with that piece. I want to get on to the next one. This one's interesting and super important to me, especially because it's something that it's hurting my heart in so many ways. Reports indicate that there is a huge rise in chronic illnesses, especially among children, hugely linked to our ultra processed foods, which we kind of talked about that with prebiotics and probiotics. One of the things that happens is, I told you, prebiotics are basically fiber, so like vegetable fiber, and that allows your probiotics to have food. Ultra processed foods have any kind of biotics to them. Okay. So that is not going to be food for your gut microbiome. We want to make sure that we're getting something in, especially our kids. We are feeding them super amounts of ultra processed stuff at schools, before school, all those kind of things. And so we really want to make sure we get them some good veggies, right? Something good with that fiber in it. And this has sparked discussions about public health policies to address dietary and environmental factors. And of course, my kids it's not just that. It's not just the food. So we can say it's all the food, but are we getting the minerals from our soil? Are we getting, our environment? It's harder on our kids now. We talk about electromagnetic frequency, the EMF radiation, because these kids are constantly on computer screens. That blue light radiation is busting up. There's studies that are showing that that's actually hurting our mitochondria of our cells. Okay. So if that's hurting our mitochondria of our cells, and as soon as you get away from that, if you take like a break from computers and all that kind of stuff, all of a sudden you get healthier. You can prove this to yourself. When you go on vacation and you get to go to a beach or something, and you get to stay out in that sun all day, and that beach, that beautiful water and everything else, and you just get out there, right? You feel better than when you're sitting in front of a computer screen, right? That is the biggest thing. Like before I do these podcasts, I make sure I'm outside. My youngest daughter, I'll tell you this joke. It's so funny. So Lexi is my youngest daughter, and she is going to kill me for being on here and saying this, but she's at a practice, so it's okay. So she is getting into working out. And so I have an area, I got a little gym, in a barn. It's pretty fun. Well, I have one of those heavy vests. So these vests, you put it on and it has all these different weights in it. And so you can take out the weights, you can do all these things. It goes up to I think it's like a 50-pound weight if you had all of them in. But, we got her down to 25, 50 pounds. Well, what's funny about it is it looks just like a bulletproof vest. So I look at her and we're going to set up her own bank account. So she's so pumped. She's 15 now. So we're going to go to the bank and start having her set up her account so I can show her how to invest. Like, the kids never do. I'm like, I want them to get like a little stock app or something, and like learn how to do some of those things. But so we're going to start her up with this little account. And so we're going in and and then she goes, "Hey, should I go with this vest on? I mean, it is working me out as I'm wearing it." And I look right at her. I'm like, "Honey, you're one ski mask away from looking like we're going to rob the bank. So no, you can't, because this vest looks just like a bulletproof vest. It's hilarious." So made her take it off before we went. So just to make sure you understand, 15-year-old robbing a bank. It was great. So where was I going with that? Oh, just get out in that sun. Make sure, because those are the things that our kids, these chronic illnesses are big parts of it, because we're staying inside more. We're getting on computers more. These kids need to be outside. Outside is another key to that, other than the ultra processed food. Okay. All right. Now we'll go into the holistic health trends. Okay. I like these topics. And then in the last half hour, I kind of go through Dr. Mercola. Dr. Mercola is a medical doctor that really has one of probably the most profound websites for natural research that you could possibly do. Get on his email list. I recommend it so highly, because you get an email all the time. And if one interests you, you can really learn a lot there. But so here is the holistic health trends that we're talking about. So integration of traditional medicine. So the World Health Organization is pushing to integrate traditional and ancient healing practices into the global healthcare systems. This strategy, highlighted in recent posts, calls for increased research and investment to blend holistic practices with modern medicine, reflecting a growing acceptance of the complementary therapies. This is a pretty good idea in theory. But here's the problem. Here's the biggest problem with this. It's two different schools of thought, and that's one of the reasons it's never happened. This isn't the first time people have tried to integrate these two practices together. What I mean by that is the people that are watching me currently are holistic-minded people. They believe that the innate intelligence of the body is what runs the body, right? And we just got to get out of the way. The problem with our medical is that it's called reductionism. Reductionism is where they are going in, seeing a problem that's there, offering a solution. So in a light way, your wrist is broken. We're going to put it back together with a pin or a plate, and then we're going to heal it up. Makes sense in that concept. The problem is when and that's what I consider the sick care model. There's a problem, we give it a solution. The problem is like, to do a truly holistic paradigm, you have to be what they call deductive. Okay, so deductive assumes that we are perfect. We are this perfect human being with this perfect innate intelligence. Why, when a symptom appears, why is that happening? Because you should be perfect, right? And so what happens is this reduction is symptom, or here's the problem. It's in this shoulder, right? I'll give you a great example. It happened this week. Okay. So I had a lady come in, and this is why, some chiropractic, well, all of us probably are thought of as crazy all the time. Okay. So I had a lady come in and her wrist hurt. Her wrist was like she couldn't remember spraining it. Nothing. It was just every time she moved it, it hurt. Every time I moved it, it started hurting. So I'm like, okay, immediately my sick care model goes, okay, thinking it is a sprain. And then she goes through her history. She had been to a physical therapy for several months on this wrist to no avail. There was no injury. Okay, that's weird. You must have slept on it wrong. An MRI showed nothing. Okay. Nothing in the wrist to make it feel like that. Every time I touch it, it would hurt. Okay. There's swelling, there's inflammation in there in this wrist. Okay. So we start going around and I start feeling, I'm like, all right, well, let's address the wrist. She had a little neck pain, nothing major, but I felt in her neck and right magically where the nerve supply to the wrist goes, there was a neck vertebrae that was way out of whack. I'm like, call me crazy, ma'am, but I think, well, I didn't say that. You guys know, most of you know how I talk anyway, but I go, I think we're going to try something. So I told her we're going to adjust her spine and the vertebrae that I found in there. Right. And we're going to do that first. And then in a couple of days, we're going to come back and see how that wrist feels. So we adjust her neck, do all that stuff. And then we have her come back in a few days and lo and behold, her wrist, it just went away. It was like magic. No, it was deductive. The communication of the nerve path from her neck to her wrist was off. And that's what kept doing it. It's not where the problem was, though. So think about that. They could have done exploratory surgery next. Who knows, right? On a wrist that needed nothing when the real solution was like a spinal misalignment. Okay. So remember that. Yeah, Julie. Julie says, I 100% agree. Are they hurting us with our own drugs? That is, unfortunately, that's the question. That's the tough question is that the holistic approach also will not ever have enough monetary prowess to go against probably the best product that you could sell in the world. Think about a product that you can make for 7 cents and charge 300 for the same thing. The profit margin on that is insane. So think about that as we go, because, there's certain parts of capitalism that get me frustrated. Drugs would be that one, because you're like, is that right? I mean, all for people making really good money, but a 3,000% markup might be, stretching my morality situation, especially if you let that stuff happen. Okay. So with that said, remember that as we go. It's called reductionism, which is problem. Here's the shoulder problem. Let's just look at the shoulder. And that's one reason holistic and sick care, it's going to be very, very difficult to integrate those two together. Could they work together? Best thing on the planet. I really think instead of an integrative solution where we're trying to meld them together, we just work together. and that could be amazing, because I want to plan it with a bunch of sick care doctors too. Remember that. So as I'm getting on my soapbox on this holistic stuff, you want good cardiologists. You want a good MD, ones that are, if there is a problem, you want a solution. This is not a dig. It's just, it's different. How do we get healthier is the question. They're there if you get sick. That's the difference. Hopefully you're hearing what I'm saying. Okay. So let's keep going. Let's see if there's any good ones, and then I'll move on to the next. Okay. So most of these, you guys know, mental well-being, balancing the body and the mind. All of these things are the huge talk, mostly on social media. You're always going to have some really good topics of holistic. And that's one reason we always wanted to do this, the Whole Health Weekly, because you might hear something. And remember, put it in the chat for sure. I can see Rumbles, Facebooks, YouTubes, whoever you want to, or wherever you're watching from. Put your question in, because you may have seen something go across. that you're like, hey, is this good for me or not? Those kind of situations, or is it going to lead us to that holistic process? So now let's go into Dr. Mercola, because he had some cool articles, some really cool articles. So here we go. Let's go to, okay. Let's do this one. Okay. Drinking alcohol raises dementia risk and causes brain lesions. Even moderate alcohol drinking increases your risk of vascular brain lesions by 60% compared to non-drinkers, challenging long-held beliefs about safe consumption levels. Heavy drinkers have a 133% higher chance of developing these brain lesions and 41% chance of getting what they call tau tangles linked to Alzheimer's. Their life expectancy is also 13 years shorter compared to non-drinkers. A study of 314,000 patients concluded there is no safe level of alcohol consumption for brain health, with genetic analysis confirming that increased dementia correlates with alcohol intake. Former heavy drinkers showed lasting brain damage despite quitting, including smaller brain mass, lower cognitive function, indicating alcohol's effects are cumulative. Recommendations are eliminating alcohol completely and addressing the root causes of drinking, like joining support groups and educating yourself. So this is always an interesting topic because it is true. I've seen it in my world for years. You guys stay right here real quick. I will be right back. I have to make sure somebody, this is a kid thing. So stay right there. Rachel looked a little comfy on that couch, and she's got to go pick up my kid, her Lexi, at like 7:30ish. So sorry about that. So alcohol. So let's talk about that. So one of the things I agree with part of that article, but we're going to talk about how I disagree with some of it. The human body, the cells of your body, the innate intelligence of your body can recover from almost anything. So I don't agree that once the damage happens, it's over. Okay. I don't agree with that. So one of the things that can happen is if we do a lot of good brain health situations, remember those. Let's start with fish oil, quercetin. Remember quercetin, vitamin C, vitamin Z, or zinc. There's a lot of good, brain health situations that we just start, let's say you drank a lot of alcohol. Like I'll have a beer once in a while. I'm not going to think that, you have to just be careful and be mindful of it. Right. And if you are a big, day drinker, it'll wake you up because those are big numbers. And that was a big study, 314,000 people. And if you're basically, like a very big drinker every day, 133% chance of something happening in there. We don't want that. And here's the cool thing about alcohol that I've always thought. If you make it as a treat, just like every kind of sugar out there, right? Remember back when the Coke was like super sugary and it was delicious? I talked to my old farmers and stuff, and they'd be like, yeah, we'd go get a Coke and it'd last all day. I'm like, oh, really? And they'd like, yeah, we drink it, but it was so sugary. And like, they would use it as a dessert, right? And so that kind of usage didn't put the pounds on. The problem we have now is it's so addictive and people are drinking, a 6-pack a day or, 3 or 4 Cokes. Or I just saw Parks and Rec. I don't know if you've ever watched Parks and Rec. They had this like big gulp. It was like a 2-gallon big gulp. That's how much sugar you drink. That's the kind of stuff that's happened to us. They like suck you into that kind of situation. Alcohol is no different. Alcohol, they do the same thing. They want you to consume more. So what do you have to think of? More, situations. So remember that as we go in the alcohol thing. That should help you and give you some power in that area. All right. Let's go to, this one I thought was interesting, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. Okay. Could low testosterone be secretly driving your kidney stone risk? Okay. Low testosterone levels below 33 nanograms increased kidney stone risk by 65%, regardless of other health factors like age, weight, or blood pressure. Men 34 to 44 with low testosterone face a 29% higher risk of developing their first kidney stone compared to normal levels. Maintaining testosterone above what they say 360 nanograms per deciliter significantly reduces kidney stone risk, with protective benefits most pronounced in men over 40 years. And I'll tell you in a minute why. Testosterone, in my opinion, why. Testosterone influences kidney stone formation, possibly by affecting this stuff called glycolate oxidase, the oxidase process, which catalyzes metabolites involved in stone development. There's different kinds of stones that do, but the glycolate one is pretty common. Natural ways to boost testosterone include reducing exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals, some types of different trainings, optimizing diet, sunlight exposure, and balancing hormones, possibly with progesterone. Okay. So this is an interesting concept because, like, a lot of times, and don't think just men, right? Low testosterone in women is another problem. And one of the things you can do, you must balance out those hormones. And one of the ways, in men, it's a little easier because, like as they weightlift, when you exercise in any kind of capacity, a lot of times you're going to be able to balance your hormones good or better. And so a lot of times there's different herbs too that help with this a lot. One that I know, they're called adaptogens. Adaptogens are what you call astragalus or, those kind of situations. What they do is they help normalize the body all over the place. So it's a really good herb to start with because it's almost like a multivitamin herb. It hits every part of your body. So sometimes those astragalus, and they're recommending that for women too, because it helps with that hormonal balance. And so because it helps every system that's out there. So just remember that testosterone thing could be a good indicator as why do I always get kidney stones? And people that had those and they're chronic, with them as well. Okay. So I thought that was a pretty good one. Little tidbit. Let's go to this one. Study reveals how high fat diets they fuel cancer to spread. High fat diets. A high fat diet makes it easier for breast, and this is by Dr. Mercola. So a high fat diet makes it easier for breast cancer to spread by activating clotting cells, increasing inflammation, and altering blood vessels in ways that help tumors grow. Mice on high-fat diets have nearly 5 times more cancer cells in their lungs, even when their tumor were the same size or as leaner mice. A high-fat diet increased fibronectin, which acts as a molecular glue, helping cancer cells attach to the blood vessels, while obesity increases inflammatory compounds, which worsens the buildup. So the solution, if somebody had, especially in cancer type situations, I'd hope we'd get to an anti-inflammatory diet anyway. And so a lot of times, one reason to go to those anti-inflammatory type diets, here's another reason. It can significantly reduce your cancer risk, right? So those high fat, high sugar, situations leads to inflammation, and you're going to be hurting, number one. So you have the pain of that part, but then you also have the risk of these other major stuff. Okay. So those are some ones off of Dr. Mercola. And then I'll end. Let me look. I got some ones from chiropractic research that I love doing. I just started adding this last week. So if you guys like this, give me a thumbs up on this. All right. So we're going to go into kids getting adjusted. Let me see what I got. Oh, shoot. Well, let's look at. Oh, let's go to. Sorry, guys. I lost my spot. Okay. Oh, darn it. Darn it. That's okay. So right now, I don't have anything in there. Darn it. Let's do one more from Dr. Mercola right now. Sorry, I had this like sweet website that I'm a part of, and theirs hasn't been updated yet. So I got to wait for that. All right. So let's go into. Okay, let's do this one. I think this will be super helpful because of our TikTok topic, the science of probiotics, how beneficial bacteria support health. So let's walk through this. This is a Dr. Mercola, just to make sure we drive this home, this gut health stuff. Gut health is central to overall wellness, with imbalances causing fatigue, weight gain, inflammation across multiple body systems. Combining specific probiotics with plant compounds, prebiotics, creates synergistic effects that reduce inflammation and strengthen gut barrier function. They're called short-chain fatty acids, especially one called butyrate. That's an important one. Remember that. Butyrate's one that I am adding to my gut protocol. So just remember that one. It's this one that really helps. And this is why. It strengthens the gut lining integrity and regulates immune function. While Akkermansia mucinophilia bacteria supports the protective mucus layer where butyrate producing microbes thrive. Okay. So when you think of your gut, I heard a great analogy. Think of a bunch of donuts like stacked on top of each other, and things have to go through there, but they also have to get into it. So, what donut would be a good one? Is that what that guy used? So think of a series of bagels. Let's go there. Let's go a series of bagels. Okay. So the series of bagels, we're going to stack them up and it creates this tube. Okay. So this is our gut. So our gut is like a series of these bagels all lined up. Now with the bagels, we have to get things from in the hole of the bagel through a membrane. So there's like through the bagel itself, and think of it like a soft bagel when we do this. So you have this and they call it the bloodstream, or where you use the nutrients. Okay. So we have to make sure that the bagel inside is soft enough to be able to kind of absorb, let's say, the water. Let's say you pour a bunch of water down these bagels, but it's a nice soft bagel, not a really hard crust. So then all of a sudden they get soaked in and it gets soggy. Well, that's what you want the bagel on the outside to look like through this tube. Okay. The problem we get into is where the water that goes through these bagels are so hard and rigid that the water isn't able to kind of absorb into the bagel, making them soggy, right? That's kind of what you're thinking in terms of, how your gut goes, right? And then these gut bacteria are sitting in those bagels to break down that food so that we can get that food into smaller chunks so it goes through the bagel even smoother. Okay. So that's why gut microbiome is so important. If we can get our gut bacteria right, it's going to be massively good, right? So massively good situation for us all. So I thought that was a pretty good one. Just remember it's worth, and remember butyrate, and this new gut bacteria. This is a new probiotic called Akkermansia mucinophilia. There's going to be quite a few coming out, and they're all crazy names. So just be ready for that. So, and then the last part of this article says timing matters in gut healing. First, remove the inflammatory foods like vegetable oils and fix the terrain. So fix what your bagels look like before gradually introducing fiber and probiotics tailored to your specific condition. Okay. So as we get better at it, it's going to be really, really good. Okay. I think I have time for one more. Let's do one more article. Ooh, I like this. Because we don't do enough of this. We should. You should go and when I bring this up, always have like a bag of those little oranges. Okay. So this is the last one because we don't do enough of this and we can do as much as we want to. So, Dr. Mercola, can vitamin C from fresh foods help lower heart disease risk by type 2 diabetes? Low vitamin C levels are strongly linked to increased cardiovascular disease in people with type 2 diabetes. So this isn't just this study was done on type 2 diabetics. It's not just on normal people, but we still don't do enough vitamin C even if you don't have type 2 diabetes. People who consume fewer than one serving of fruit or vegetables daily had significantly lower vitamin C levels than those eating 2 or more servings daily. Vitamin C protects arteries by neutralizing free radicals, preserving nitric oxide for vessel flexibility, and supporting collagen synthesis for arterial strength. So that's big. Vitamin C could be one of your ones if you're worried about your joint health and it helps support collagen and synthesis of collagen. Increase your vitamin C level. That's one reason I like doing this show because I miss things all the time. It's constant. There's so much that you can learn from all this. Studies show that vitamin D supplementation of 1,000 milligrams daily reduces triglycerides. That's awesome. Improves blood flow and decreases inflammation markers in people with metabolic disorders. Whole fruits rich in vitamin C, like guava, oranges, the amla fruit, provide heart protection by optimizing vessel function and preventing dangerous blood clots. That's awesome. So those little, I can't remember what they're called, the little minis, the little baby oranges that you get in a big bag. I'll tell people to do that, tear it up if you get sick, and you won't be sick the next day. Because it also has in its peel is quercetin or quinine. Yeah. Yes, quinine. So quinine's in the peel actually too. So you're not only getting vitamin C, you're getting quinine as well. So that's really good because that helps zinc get into your cells. That's why a lot of times vitamin C and zinc are two huge ones for sicknesses. But think of if it's good for your cardiovascular health. Maybe that's your new snack at night, like oranges at night. It'd be pretty awesome, especially them little tiny ones. You can eat a ton of those. So with that, guys, I'm going to end it tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll have more chiropractic stuff next time, I promise. But with that, we'll check you next week. Thank you guys for your participation. Have a great week. Take it easy.